Okay, so I'm going to record it to the cloud and then I will get it posted to the website. Something happened with that live stream. It might be because well, I usually use this laptop, so I don't apologize for that. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thanks for reminding me there. And you said you're all set. Okay, appreciate it. Renee Keeney, I see your hand up.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, Renee Ramirez Keeney, 2 Beverly Avenue. I was here back in August 14th to offer comment on the proposed flag policy. And I'm returning this morning in hopes that this committee, who very patiently listened to the many comments that were made that day, I'm hoping that you know, that you have taken that feedback and reconsidered the draft policy. I'm here not just for myself, but also on behalf of the students who would have been here had you been able to schedule this meeting during the day. Of course, they're in class. Numerous students did speak up, sharing their concerns and contributed constructive feedback in the fall of 2023, in the winter of 2024. And 2 of the students who spoke in August, Maren Potter and Nina Johnson, continue to survey students on this issue. And I understand from them that there are many students who will be planning to speak at the next school committee meeting, as well as others who have written comments. They'll speak for themselves at that time, and for now they have asked me to relay that the overwhelming majority of students believe that the decision regarding the flying of flags or banners should rest not with the school committee, but with professional administrators, the principal and superintendent, in consultation with students. They feel strongly that those in the school building have a right to voice how they choose to create, express, and nurture their sense of community. A restrictive or preemptive policy takes away a valuable learning opportunity for students to have a dialogue with classmates, their teachers, and administrators about why and when any proposed flag should fly. Even though the final arbiter might be the principal and superintendent, students could have a chance to think critically. And from an education lens, it can be an important developmental and experiential learning opportunity. I do, of course, agree with your wording that it's important that any flag and banners, quote, reflect the mission, vision, and values of the school district, unquote. Students would also concur with that very appropriate wording and criteria. It is the mission of our school department to foster an environment of belonging and acceptance. Your words. If students want to fly a pride flag or Juneteenth flag, those should not be beyond consideration. Our vision of a 21st education should aspire to prepare our students for the extremely diverse world that they will live, work, and compete in. As for values, yes, let's do rally around our flags that signal and emphasize values which strengthen our common purpose as a school and the community we aspire to be. Whether it's an Earth Day flag, Pride flag, American flag, Marblehead Festival of Arts, Magicians, Spirit of 76, or Black Lives Matter flag. In a time of too much division, meanness, and conflict, let's demonstrate that Marblehead's not afraid to emphasize a little more community, common values, human rights, compassion. It's okay to signal that our schools are a welcoming, safe place for any student to feel they can contribute and learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ray. Nyla Dubois. I'm gonna. Hi, Nyla.
Hi. Hi, Nyla. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh. Yes.
Hang on 1 second, Nyla. We're mute your microphone.
1 second, Nyla. Oh, sure. Mute your microphone.
Okay, you can go ahead, Nyla.
I am Nyla Dubois. I'm at 37. Okay, so there are a few things here. Lost her. I don't know who just spoke, but thank you for laying that out. Hearing a recap of what the students are thinking, because a lot of us have missed a lot of these meetings.
Nyla, you're going
One of the
in
things that keeps being
out.
mentioned
Nyla,
is
give us 1 second here.
okay.
Sorry, Nyla, we're just having a little technical difficulty. Hang on 1 second. Okay, all right, try it again, Nyla. Go ahead. Okay, all right.
Is it on my end or on your end, maybe?
Yeah, you're cutting
Oh,
in and out, which is we're not really sure why.
It's not coming through online either.
It's weird. Not coming through your line. I don't know what that,
It's not coming through online either.
it's not.
Yep, we heard you.
Yeah, we're trying to work on that. Just give us a second. Yeah.
Okay. Headphones help.
Let's
Yeah,
let's try that, Nyla. Let's try that.
Yikes. So,
Go ahead, Nyla. No, we're
just
not
trying
here.
headphones or
Oh, there you go. It's delayed, but
either. I just tried headphones because I have a couple others, but I just used them.
I'm gonna join from my phone.
Can't hear anything.
you're going in and out is what the problem is. I'm not sure if the folks online can hear you.
I mean, I can try and log in from my phone.
Yeah, why don't you try that? That might help.
Let's see.
Yeah, why don't you try that?
It's like
I'm going to recess the meeting for 1 minute, see if I
Very
can get some
helpful.
tech support. Get some tech support.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Hold on. Tap to unmute. Is this, can you hear this now? Is this better?
Okay, hold on. It was. Let's try this. Oh, there we go. Guys, you can hear me.
Nyla, can you
see
hear
me?
us? Anybody,
Yeah.
can you hear us? Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So
Yes.
can you hear and
See
see
you,
me?
I
Is
can
this
see you,
better?
I can hear you.
Okay. We're good?
Yes, can folks online hear?
Like, can someone give us a thumbs up? Like,
Yes, we
Mary,
can
I
hear
see your
now.
camera on. Can you let us know if you can hear? And you can hear Nyla as well?
Okay.
There you go. All right.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. It must have been my computer. Anyway, so values. Okay, so we were just talking about values. One of the things that's really important to understand is that not everyone values, or not everybody sees the same values in those particular symbols. One of the things I've taken issue with this entire time with the flag debate and even the one that's on the sidewalk in the town outside of the information booth is that these symbols are what some people believe speaks for everybody. And that's just not true. You can't, I mean, that would be like saying every blonde-haired, blue-eyed German in 1942 was a Nazi. Like, that's just not true. You can't say that the, you know, that, I mean, what, you can't say that the pride flag stands for every lesbian or transgender person, and you can't say that Black Lives Matter, whether it's the organization or that symbol or that flag, stands for every Black person. That was printed actually in the Marblehead Current, and it really upset me because it's, I mean, it's just that organization does not, I do not share the same values. And so just from that premise, we have to ask whether or not our school district or our local government, but since the school district is part of the government, should be in the business of mandating values and telling people what a good idea is or what a bad idea is. I mean, really, we should be talking to kids about the marketplace of ideas, how to, you know, fight for your idea, right? I mean, I'm not saying that any kids should not have any, should not want to fight for what they believe in. The question is, whose voice is it, right? So when you put the pride flag in the lunchroom or the Black Lives Matter flag in the lunchroom, is that area designated for the kids? Does everybody have the same understanding that that is the student's voice and not the school district's voice? And I think that's really the fundamental issue here, because nobody's trying to take away the students' free speech, but we also need to explain to them what that means. And I know it's not just in Marblehead, but across the country, we have a lack of education in civics. We have a lack of education in liberalism and in Enlightenment ideas, which is what this country is founded on, right? I mean, we're founded on, you know, equality for everyone. Now, I know some people, you know, take issue with that and say that they think that America is not an equal country. But we also have to remember that without 1776 and the Declaration of Independence, we would not have been able to end slavery. Okay. So, I mean, these are really important concepts. And I think selling that to the public, selling to the public the idea that we need to teach kids how to have these debates and how to appropriately and respectfully fight for what you believe in, while also being able to accept that others may have ideas that you find, quite frankly, abhorrent. But in America, that's okay. That's the whole point of the project. And if you want to live in some place where, you know, the government and the schools get to mandate what's a good idea and what's a bad idea, then, you know, maybe America's not the place for you. I hate to say it, but like, that's the bottom line here. I don't think the school or the district should be in the business of mandating what's a good idea, because at some point, you know, we're going to have detransitioners coming into school, right? Kids who were caught up in something like, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, being transgender isn't real.
Nyla, I'm just gonna quickly,
But
Nyla,
someone's
Nyla,
going to
I'm
come
just
in and
gonna
not
give
want to see that
you a minute.
flag, and you have to be able to
Nyla?
support that kid as well. Yeah, I can't see.
Nyla, I just need you to wrap this up because it's been a little over 3 minutes.
Yep. Okay.
Limit.
Thanks.
So if you
I'm
could just
done.
wrap it up. Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Nyla.
Yep.
I'm gonna do one. Over the 15 minutes. Allison spoke a little bit in there, so I'm
Sorry.
going over a bit. No, it's okay. I've got one more hand with Chris Brule. Chris, are you there? Or-
I am. Yep. Thank you. Chris Brule, 212 West Shore Drive. I actually, unlike Kate, I will belabor the point that I think it's this is not business like the roof. This is not business related to budget. This is not business related to other things that students are not intimately involved in. Yes, they sit in schools with leaking roofs. That affects them. This is business that students have a personal stake in, whether or not we believe there should be flags, whether or not we believe there should not be flags. The students need to be involved in this entire process. Holding meetings at 9:30 on a Wednesday when students cannot be here is inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the opinion.
Okay, and that is everybody. All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the public comment. We're going to move on to school committee protocols.
Now, got my microphone.
No.
Oh, no. Hang on 1 second.
Oh, now I'll turn.
Can leave it on in case. I don't have my phone on.
Your computer though? I'll just leave it
Okay.
on the phone and let's see if that works.
Okay. Okay. All right, do we have reverb? No, we're good. Okay. All right, can everybody out there hear us?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Okay, we're moving on to school committee protocols. So this, Allison, was one of the goals that we had for the school committee for this year. I took the opportunity to print out the current school committee protocols, of which we have, I think, 7 pages of protocols, under various categories. Were you part of this? You weren't part of this to put this together. Okay. So it seemed, so that's one thing. And then I did also pull off best practices for protocols and effective school committee meetings. And these are sort of norms for protocols and how we would set our protocols. So my question to you is, and there's a,
and just so everybody knows, what she's talking about with goals is we always set school committee goals, and one of our goals was to review all of our policies and protocols, just in case you didn't come to anything and know that.
yeah, thank you. So there's a worksheet that's involved with this. It supposedly is supposed to help us, sort of whittle this down. So my question to you is, how do we want to proceed with this? We could work with MASC, we could work with Alicia. We could just sort of try to bang this out ourselves. I think my understanding in terms of the goal is to try to streamline this a bit and make it a little bit more concise and focused. Now, the categories do consist of, who we represent, how we govern, how we treat each other, how we communicate, how we will improve, what are the limits of our authority, and currently that's what this is, and what happens when things go wrong. A lot of things, and what happens when things go wrong. Yeah. A lot of items under those. So I don't, that's not part of the recommended MASC includes how we govern. This is what I recall from the past too, how we govern, how we communicate, and how we improve. So there were a couple of other subjects that came in there. So,
And I think that there's a couple of things probably from the how or what happens when things go wrong that can be incorporated into how we govern. Because that is part of governing, is what happens when things go wrong. I'm not sure it needs to be its own section.
Yeah, I don't know what the genesis of that was. So what are your thoughts? I didn't think we could do this today. This was just, what's our sort of plan?
I think that you and I could do it, and then we could bring it, it's long, but it's not 70 pages. So I think that we could do that. It's always wonderful to work with Alicia. I just don't know what timing or what availability she has. So maybe looking into the availability with Alicia. Alicia is our representative from MASC. Folks that don't know, she's wonderful, and it would be great to work with her on this and get her thoughts and experience on it. I just don't want that to delay progress.
Okay.
And
okay, so why don't we do this then?
And maybe we could do both. We could, work on it while we wait to have a meeting with her, and then we could show her our suggestions rather than showing her the older version and saying, what do you think? Maybe we work together to improve upon it, and then ask her for her thoughts. And then that would maybe give us a little time to do that,
Okay,
assuming she's not gonna be available, tomorrow or next week.
great. Okay. So I will get in touch with her, find out her availability. I think that's probably a good idea. So maybe what we could do is, what I'll suggest is before our next meeting, maybe each of us go through this.
Yeah.
Right? Come back to me with that and maybe even take a stab at this. There's also, a million, obviously, there's 300 and some odd school districts that all have operating protocols. Most of them, I just did a quick look of
Sure. Yeah.
search on, a handful of districts around the state, and a lot of them, I think almost all of them pull from this document. And there are suggestions from MASC under each of these categories. And I think what they're saying is you don't necessarily need all of them because they have samples here,
Yep.
but you can see when you go to different school districts that, they have pulled, from these.
Yep.
Generally, what I saw was anywhere from like 3 to 4 under each category,
Mhm.
so really you're looking at maybe a total of, 10 to 12.
Yep.
Versus, we've got quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense. So why don't we, before the next meeting, you and I just at least go through this. I'll send you the link to this. We can come back, with it. And then I'll find out her availability. And if we can find a time soon that she can meet, we could probably just have her come in, try to bang it out, or we take an initial stab at it and then have her come in and help us finalize. So, and I think the process would be, we would draft a set of protocols that we would present to the school committee.
Yeah.
And then,
Absolutely.
deliberate. So it's, obviously it's also possible that what we present to them could change. Yeah, for sure. You know what? We have public comment at the beginning. And then we do and then at the end, after we adjourn the meeting, if I have to stay for a meeting, so we can chat for a couple minutes afterwards. Thank you. Okay, so that's what I will do. You and I will finish that. I'll send you the link. We'll take a stab at kind of whittling ours down, and then we will do a working session next time. Oh, no, I won't end. Okay, planning for policy review. All right, so this has got a bunch of stuff here. So John sent us. Did you got that email from him? So just to give a little history here for our policies, the last full policy review that took place was in 2018. I was part of that. And prior to that, it had been 10 years since the policies had been reviewed. So we actually contracted with MASC in 2018 to come in with our then field representative.
Mm-hmm.
And we reviewed it as a subcommittee. It took like 16 months because we went through every single one. It was a huge project. We had so many outdated policies. It was crazy. I'm not sure that we're at that point, right? Because I think we did that, and I think that there's been some ongoing review of it. But MASC does put out policy updates throughout the course of the year. So and I went back. What they've got online goes back to 2020. And so there's a lot of, and I printed this out. There's a lot of policies that have changed, and I don't know whether we've updated ours or not. So that's something that we need to be working on. The ones most recently given to us yesterday was from John, was the updates from this year.
Yes.
Which include, generally, not exclusively, but generally around the Title IX. And civil rights, and sexual harassment and discrimination. So we have policies for all of these. There's a little bit of confusion on this because, as John explained to me, we have these policies. Most of them were done in, bear with me a minute here. This one's 2024. All right, well, that's good. We got that one updated. I think some are back from like 2020, 2019. There were changes initially when there were federal Title IX changes that were put through last year. Those are now on hold federally. However, so those would not go forward. However, we also have state law that is similar to what the Title IX changes were that are now on hold federally. So I think there's a bit of confusion.
Yes.
So I think what I should probably do is just send a quick email to Liz, our attorney, and just get her view on what is the updated ones, because we did update a few to meet those new Title IX changes that now I'm not sure if those are accurate. So
Yep.
So I can take that on and just get it. I mean, I'm sure she'll send a quick thing back. And that if that's the case, then we would need to review them. However, they're supposed to be updated, and then we would take it to the school committee for approval. My understanding, and I'll get clarification on this, that an updated policy is one reading and one approval, and that a new policy is the 3, but I'll confirm that.
Okay.
For sure. So that includes, just so everyone knows, civil rights grievance procedure, sexual and sex-based harassment retaliation, non-discrimination on the basis of sex, non-discrimination policy, including harassment and retaliation, which is an addendum, and non-discrimination policy, including harassment and retaliation. So that's that policy, and then there's addendum to it. So that looks like that's 1, 2, 3, 4 policies. Okay, so I'll take on that. So then I printed out the 2023, of which there's 3, and then the 2022 policy updates. And what I found was, and I haven't gone through to look at ours to see if we've made these changes. I will do that. But for instance, December of 23, policy updates were were exclusively around tech, right? So it's here, it's like electronic messaging, school committee members, data records retention, personal use of all this stuff. So I'm thinking, and then there's 2, I'm sorry, that included school meal policies. So I'm thinking that maybe we forward this to, in one case, Steve Kwiatek, the other would be John Constantino, have them look at this and say, does this make sense? Are we adhering to this?
Right.
That's the first question.
Right.
And what do we need to change some, we're going to implement this, and then we can come back and we would go through it in a policy subcommittee meeting and get it prepared to present to the school. All right. So that's 23 of December. Same thing, September included various things like the nutrition program, service animals in school, about homeschooling. So these are things that I'll take this on. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones that we should review. I'm going to send these out to John and just John, like the policy. I mean, the subject matter administrators need to be the ones to review this to make sure. Okay. Same thing with March of 23, all the way back to 22.
There needs to be a discussion and they can.
Correct. Exactly. The September of 22 update included a lot around budget. So that I will also get to Mike. Okay, so I can take that on. So we've got some work to do this winter and spring. Okay, that's the policy review. Flag policy is our next item. I did print out the drafts. We did have 2 drafts that we did talk about before. So I'll just print these out for you. So my question is, how do we want to proceed in terms of going forward with potentially presenting a draft flag policy?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we mentioned or that we discussed at our workshop before there was a pause in the world there for us for a few months, is having a forum to allow the community and our students to be part of the discussion. They don't get to make the decisions. That's, not how the process works, but it is important that they are part of the discussion and that we hear directly from them. Obviously there is an effect that this has on them. I'm hopeful that we do more in our schools. And if we don't, then we should, to make sure that everybody feels, included and welcome. But I do think it's important that we, number one, keep that promise. As someone noted, I'm not sure if it was you or someone on the call, but I know there was a lot of confusion, you know, I saw a lot of comments on the article that was posted. This was not a meeting for that discussion. And I know it took on its own life, and I'm not really interested in getting into that back and forth. But what Jen and I are here to talk about is what our process moving forward is going to be for this. I think we certainly want to honor what we wanted to do and what we discussed doing at our workshop, and making sure that it's a time that works for folks. But I also know that it is something that was important to John as well. And I do think that we should do our best to try and schedule that. Now, it's not, the time is not going to work for everybody. We're not going to do it at 9:30 in the morning. 9:30 in the morning is for our working sessions. Those will continue to be. But for discussions with the public, especially when we want them to be discussions and interactions versus just make a comment, we're not talking. And I think on a number of different topics, not just this flag policy, that's often one of the biggest problems that we have is, you know, the not talking. I've been a big proponent of forums on everything, whether it's flag or recess or budget. And so I think we should look to do that and look to get that set up, you know, as quickly as possible. And we will have to pick a night, and we understand that students have sports and extracurricular activities and theater and music and arts and all of those things that they may be busy on that night. And I just want to be clear that we're aware of that, but we're not going to be able to accommodate everybody. But I do think it would be a really great gesture of just continuing to increase our transparency with the community to have that discussion with them and allow for that discussion. It's important to note that just like with our surveys that we sent out, when we were asking, or the survey that I wrote when we were questioning what people's preferences were for returning to school and making up those days. It's not necessarily true that we're always going to be able to do what folks want, but it is important that we hear that feedback. So that is my hope for the go forward. I'm still okay with this being our draft to start with, but I do think that it's important that we hear that feedback. And I think that's what we heard loud and clear. Obviously, folks are here today and we greatly appreciate it. But I think it was our workshop where we had a lot of people. And again, the workshop was not meant to exclude anybody, but a workshop by nature is a workshop for the people involved. So it was a workshop for our school committee. And I think hopefully we have our FAQ section coming out on our website. Hopefully some of these things, you know, understanding why things happen in the morning or what a workshop is, etc., will be clarified in there. That'll be good. And that just made me thought of adding a workshop question. I think to going through.
That is a good idea.
Just so that people understand, because it's, I think oftentimes whether, you know, people jump the gun, I know people always come into things, everybody comes into things with predetermined, you know, results or conditions or thoughts on whether it's the people, the subject matter, the situation. And I think what we would really, I think what we want to make sure that we are doing is just kind of staying the course, continuing to increase the transparency into what we're doing and why, and involving the community whenever we can.
Okay. Okay, great. Appreciate all that. I agree with
Sorry.
all that. No, that was great. So I think what's
Thing
your
to
vote?
say. I know,
vocab word.
my mom.
So a couple things. We did have, I believe, 2 or 3 listening sessions. I think
You did.
3. And those were scheduled with not input, with direction from the principal, Dr. Carlson, as to the best way to do that. So I believe we did 2 during Magic Block, which was during the school day, and then we did 1 right after school, is my recollection. I could be wrong. And we did get, sort of a group of maybe anywhere from 7 to 9 or 10 students who attended. And there were some,
I was working, so I
yeah, no.
those, just so that folks know, I was not in.
Well, I think we also did it so it was not a posted meeting. We can't be together as a quorum because we were trying to give, which I think was important, was some privacy,
Yep.
just given at that point with the recommendation from Dr. Carlson.
Yeah.
So I think maybe what we should do is go back to the administration, John and Michelle, and just say, okay, what would be their recommendation for the best way to set this sort of forum up, where we will try to maximize the number of students who are
Right.
going to attend, that want to attend. I'm even thinking about, somehow during the school day, I mean, whatever, that's up to the administrators to give us the recommendation, but it's either during the school day or probably in the evening, right? Because after school, all sorts
Right.
of stuff is going on. So,
Even in the evening, sometimes the kids are traveling home from sports. or,
Yeah.
Oftentimes I have to play practice at night, so.
yeah,
you
so
know,
we'll that's up to the administration, I think, to really, they're the
And
subject
Jonathan's
matter
on board.
experts.
I remember, I don't want to speak for him, I know if
Yeah.
he comes, he can weigh in, but, he was on board, so he may have some thoughts.
And that probably should be open, I think, at that point. Like, I think it should be, I think, the listening sessions ended up being a self-selected sort of small group and got
Yeah.
into some, stuff that needed to remain private, but I think this, and therefore we can do it as, we
Right.
would post it as an open meeting. And other school committee members may want to go too,
Right.
so that's a good point. So, all right, so I can work on that. And maybe that's what the plan would be, to do whatever we want to call that, a forum, I don't want to call it a listening session, a forum, because there
Yeah,
may be some
forum, yeah.
dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And then let's, from a timing standpoint, well, let's talk to Dr. Carlson and figure out, but maybe, I was gonna say before the February break, before the February long weekend, we can have that done. And then we can report, back to school committee what our next steps will be.
Mhm.
But we also need to have the community needs to be able, I think this needs to be sort of a community forum too.
Which
Or-
is why at night.
Yeah.
To the point of.
Yeah.
we're not doing it. Even 5 o'clock would be hard for people that, even if it's Zoom, it's still hard for people that are trying to get home, feed their kids or.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So probably like a 6 or 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Just 2, I am not looking to exclude people, but we do have to have the time block around it.
Yep.
Yep. So, a couple hours, I think, would be important. And also just to clarify, I've probably said this 87 times if I've said it once, but I will say it again. The reason that we are, because there's, again, seems to be a lot of misinformation. The reason that we are having to look at this and having to draft this new policy is not because Jen and I woke up and decided we wanted to have this difficult discussion. It is because we were asked by the last administration.
No, it was this, it was, it was Dr. Carlson,
It was
Yeah.
Dr. Cole, yeah, and it was Michelle
Cresta.
Cresta as well. That, that inquired what our flag policy was because they couldn't find one. They couldn't find one because we didn't have one. And the process is when administration asks about a policy, if we don't have one, it is the school committee's responsibility in Massachusetts to actually develop that policy. So that's kind of the genesis of all of this.
Yep.
So.
Okay. All right. So, so we may end up doing I'm thinking we may end up doing 2 forums.
Sure.
Yeah. One for students.
Yep.
Not exclusively, but focused on students, and then one for
We
the
can do that.
public. Okay.
Sure.
So and that goal should be within the net,
A couple weeks.
well, yeah, or it may take a little more than that, to get that scheduled. So
Yeah.
let's talk to John about that. I'm just trying to think about, do we do the student one, we need to talk to, the principal, but for a public one, do we do it like around a school committee meeting, or, because people are used to the nights of our school committee meetings, but then that, that's a big chunk of time.
We could pick a Thursday in between school committee meetings. I don't think it should be with the school committee meeting because
Yeah. No, I agree.
those tend to be long anyways. I just,
Actually, you know when we could do it? Is, if my recollection is, I don't have my notes here. We originally had scheduled in February 6th and February 27th.
Mhm.
Because of the February break. Now we don't have the February break, so we could, and we didn't move a meeting to the 20th. We kept it on the 27th.
I think that that would be poorly received because.
Oh, people will be away.
People
Yeah,
will
that's right.
be away. The 13th.
We could, do the 13th. I'm, not that it's the end of the world, but I may not be able to be there. I'm arriving back on
Oh, okay.
the 12th. And I think I arrived the
Right.
morning of the
Sorry.
13th, so I can't guarantee how.
Okay.
We could do it though, and I can just make sure I'm back. I just have to check my schedule if I'm back. If I haven't slept
Be a
in
little
24 hours,
frazzled.
that's all right. It's all right. Do you want to set it that tentatively?
Yeah,
Okay, let's do that.
I feel bad doing that though. I'm
No,
not trying to exclude you.
it's fine. It's fine. Business goes on. School committee forum. Okay. And that would definitely be a posted open meeting. Well, yeah.
Yep.
Then I would have to be there. Yeah, that's fine. As a subcommittee. And then if other school, well, we'll find out. If other school committee members want to go, we'll post it as a school committee.
Yeah.
Because they may.
Yeah.
They may want to
I mean,
participate.
honestly, I think it would be nice to have.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, I think it would be great to have everybody there because I feel like the community probably wants to hear more than just from you and I, because ultimately we are a group of 5
Yeah.
and each person will be voting. So.
Yep, no, that's good. Okay, so that would be 2/13/25. Okay. So I'm thinking evening, right? Like 7
Oh,
or 6,
I
probably.
mean, we've changed our meetings
to 6. I would say
so
6.
but-
And I'll just clarify. I got to clarify that with the, the superintendent, because I
Yes,
think he should be there.
Absolutely.
I think the principals may want to be there, at least they may want to, tune in. It's going to obviously affect them. So, okay. All right. So that's good. And then and after that, we can then go back and we'll formulate what policy we may or may not go ahead with. Okay. Sounds like a plan. All right, great. Student recess policy.
I mean,
So,
look at me again.
Yeah.
I'm going to be verbose again. I'm gonna think of all the different big words I can use.
loquacious.
So yeah, that's what I said last
Mhm.
time. I wouldn't even know how to spell it, but that's okay.
Okay.
The recess policy has been something that has been important to me from when I ran. I think it is literal crying shame that our children do not have 2 recesses, because anybody that is a parent or has babysat a child or is an aunt or uncle, whatever you might be, knows that when a child is able to get the wiggles out, they certainly are able to focus more. We have a lot of rigorous work that our students do, even at younger ages. My son's in 5th grade. He had a math test and a vocabulary test last Friday on the same day. So there's a lot that these kids have, and those extra 15 minutes outside, to say that it has an extraordinary impact, I think is an understatement. I can't put enough emphasis onto it. 2 years ago, I worked with MASC and DESE, and I asked about the decision. So pre me being on the school committee, there was, originally it was just removed. The second recess was removed for K-6 arbitrarily.
That was before you were on the committee?
Before.
Okay.
Then there was understandably a huge upheaval of frustration and complaints from parents. They brought back the second recess for everybody and said they were going to put a committee together, and that committee was going to consist of, parents, community members, educators, administrators, etc., to determine what the best course of action was. I was not on that committee. My understanding from people on that committee was that they were very much pro keeping the second recess. It was removed again anyways. Stating time on learning was an issue. So Obviously, I would never want, and it is not my place as a school committee member to operationally interject around time on learning, and how that is done. However, I did speak with both MASC and DESE on time on learning, and what Glenn, I had an exhaustive conversation with him at MASC. He shared that there is no policy, there is no anything that states waiting in line to go out to recess, being able to stand in line quietly, not poking the person in front of you, being able to change in and out of your snow pants or your snow boots for K-3. There's nothing that states those pieces aren't also considered time on learning. There's nothing that states, changing, and obviously as a high schooler, it's a different situation. We're talking about our leaves. And I think even if you look back at testing scores, they were better than we had. And we're just not there yet. And I think that is a big part of it. We had kids that lost a whole year and a half in crucial time periods of their educational and their growth. Maybe some kids don't have 6 friends at home that they learn how to stand in a line and not poke and bother. Maybe they don't have that ability. And I think anything that we can do, the focus is on the students, and anything we can do to set our students up better for success is the entire goal of me spending hours and hours and hours away from my child being a school committee member for the last 3 years. So I know that there were some changes. So kind of the caveat here is I know there were some changes with the contract now. And so to be honest, I'm not sure how that is going to be implemented. Again, it's not my place to do the operational implementation, but I want to make sure that we're going to have that second recess. And I personally, I'm only one of 5, one of 2 here, one of 5 entirely, would like to make it a Marblehead public school system policy that K-6 have 2 recesses permanently. My understanding is with the additional 5 minutes of starting school 5 minutes earlier, that we will potentially be able to do that without a fight. But that is where I stand.
Good.
Very firmly, probably immovable.
Okay, so, all right, so first of all, K-3, I thought we were talking K-3 and then 4, 5, 6 would have a recess. So you're looking for 2 recesses. Okay.
I
So
think if you look at our testing scores from 4 through 6, that is,
did they always
we're
have 2
falling off.
recesses, 4 through 6?
I think they did.
I don't, I'll look
it
back on
doesn't-
that. I will say, I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
they always had 1, but we can go back and check. I think it was
Yeah.
K-3 that had the 2 recesses. A short one in the morning and then,
Lunch.
lunch.
Mhm.
And my understanding is 4, 5, and 6 had 1 at lunch. And whether they still do or not, I think is a question.
They have one. at
They
lunch.
have one at lunch,
Yeah.
okay. But we can look into that.
Yeah.
I thought John was gonna join us, which he hasn't, he must have got wrapped up in something, so I'll follow up with him. So yes, we have in the contract a provision that is the way it was written, into the contract that we have signed, or we have the memo of agreement on, is that there's going to be a committee set up with teachers, Unit A members, and administrators to determine the implementation of this 5 minutes, starting 5 minutes early. So it's not changing the time that the teachers have to be there. It's
Mhm.
right now, and I may be misremembering this, but right now the contract says the teachers must be in their classrooms 15 minutes before the bell rings and class starts. So that's not going to change. It's just that school's going to start 5 minutes earlier,
So
5
she
minutes
can only be
earlier.
there
So
10
they'll be 10
Yeah.
minutes, they'll be there 15 minutes before. They have 10 minutes where they're in the classroom, and then the class will start. That 5 minutes can then be operationalized to pick up another 5 minutes or 10 minutes throughout the morning that will give them that morning recess. So that committee is going to be meeting the remainder of the school year to determine the implementation of that to be
Mhm.
effective September. I don't want to say September 1st, but effective start of next school year. So we probably need to loop back with John and just get just make sure that's happening, which I'm pretty sure it is, but I don't think he gave us that in the update. So I agree with you. I'd like to go forward with the policy. And maybe it makes sense for the, possibly for the policy to start at the next school year, but that, or not. I mean, that's something.
I
we can-
absolutely think it should start the next school year, and I'm not,
Versus now.
I think it would be harder to start now. Listen, I want to try and be mindful of the amount of work that's required from a schedule changing perspective. But we have, and even 4, 5, and 6, I would say for different reasons than K through 3. And I know our case, I think K still has to.
Yeah, I think they do.
Sitting on the floor in this is what we were told by previous administrations. Well, they get to move from their desk, you know, that your 8-year-old, they get to move from their desk and sit on the floor. And I'm like, and I'm not even just talking about my kid, like any child sitting on the floor, you're telling them, don't sit in your chair, sit on the floor for 15 minutes versus go run your face off and get the wiggles out for 15 minutes outside, get some fresh air, and the value of fresh air when you're in these rooms for so long that have all of this returned air. And I think that the benefits are countless. And I think we do have students that we need to be able to assist our students in learning how to wait in line, in learning how to be responsible and hang their coat up and get their coat back and put their boots away and change to their sneakers. Those are things that they need to learn as well. Not that parents aren't already teaching them, of course they are, but not everybody has a big, huge class of people at home where they have to wait, like, oh, mom has to change my 4 siblings' shoes before she does mine. That is part of learning. And to say that, and I would say it's a crucial part of learning how to wait. And if I think if we can, we should be doing what we can to help, again, set these students up for success.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. Okay, so I think that is the goal, is to get this policy in place before the start of next school year. I will also note for the record that the current teacher's contract, Unit A contract, does it doesn't mandate, but it doesn't even allow, I forget the wording on it, I have to get the wording. It basically says teachers at their discretion can have a morning recess. It's not called recess. It has it says take their students out for an outside break.
Right. And that's what we were told by previous administration as well, would be happening routinely when the kids needed it. And I'm here to tell you that it didn't.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. So that this policy would obviously enforce that there's the 2 recesses. Okay.
And I think honestly, it will make a difference in their ability to pay attention, which is only going to then make, teachers able to do their job.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and we don't have Julia here either. I think it's between Julia and John, or the 2, our superintendent and our assistant superintendent of teaching and learning are the ones who are going to have to, work to help to implement this. So we will need to bring them on. I do think what their concern is, making sure that they're able to get through all their lesson plans every day. But I think the 5 minutes, I mean, John felt confident when we were going through bargaining that the starting 5 minutes early will allow for this. It'll be a short break, but it will be allowed for a break in the morning for elementary school students, and still maintain what they need in terms of ability. I'm not saying time on learning, but ability to get through all the lessons. Right.
I mean, I would advocate that they will be able to get through lessons faster because the wiggles are out. They won't spend so much time saying, Jen,
being
stop,
fidgety.
please stop.
Okay. So why don't we'll report this back to John and Julia and just say, at our next, and we don't even have a draft, I don't believe.
No, but I can look into that.
Do you want to do that? Just see if there's any out there?
Yeah.
Just in terms of wording. I mean, again, we can certainly, run it by the attorney, but I don't think we need her drafting a second reason. I mean, she'll look at it before we, look for approval from the school committee and make sure it's legal, but I think we can probably draft this.
Yeah.
So yeah, see if there's any out there, and at our next meeting, why don't we make sure we have John and Julia here? We'll present a draft.
Yeah.
And the next steps would be it would be a new policy. So we would do 3 readings.
Yeah.
So we would do 3 readings. The first one, if we decide to go forward with the draft, could be considered the first reading, and then we would do 2 more. and over a period of whatever time. I think that we can, however, I think, again, we can run this by Liz, but our attorney, but it's reasonable for there to be a commencement time of, you know, fall of 25 school
Yeah.
year, fall of
Yeah.
25 school year. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right, good. So we'll plan for that. All right. New business. Did you have anything else? No, it was a lot, and a lot of work to do. All right. Okay, great. I am going to adjourn us at 10, I'm sorry, 10:38. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Guys, can I just ask them,
Sure.
how long are the recesses currently and how long, then do you want them to stay the same length?
Let me just, hang on, let me just finish this 1 second. I just want to.
I believe they are. 3 minutes.
20 minutes?